bounced around a lot. So originally from California, born and raised. And then from California, I went to Miami, Florida, and then I went back to California, LA, and then I went to Salisbury, Maryland, and Wichita, Kansas, Decatur, Illinois, and now I've found myself here.
Now, BB's Barbecue, like many other local restaurants, say the Veteran Community Project has really upped their sales, in addition to giving them a reason to lend a helping hand. So, long story short, everybody eats. He said after work he came to get a drink when two men from across the street approached him. Gentry said it wasn't long after that before he felt a sharp impact on the side of his head. There's actually still shattered glass here today. In the state of Kansas, sex offenders, they're not banned from school grounds. In KCK Moms, they started a petition to get lawmakers to change that. Squatters, and lots of them. Folks in this Northeast community told me there are a number of vacant homes in their neighborhood, but this particular home that we're talking about tonight, they say has housed dozens of squatters. That's right. Now, downtown towing and recovery isn't actually downtown, but that accident that took place that got that man's car towed was downtown, and now 3 days later, he says he's still trying to get his vehicle back. This is what helps melt the ice. If you're interested in finding out about snow zones, you could check our webpage. A lot of debris in the area, but as I was driving by, I stopped because I noticed this creek here. Can you guys see that creek? So I'm like, oh, okay, that creek must be helping to drain the water. But I found out that it's actually a man-made creek that the owner of this business had to create to drain the water. Latrice Burnett was quoted $40,000 to fix her home's foundation. This after a year of her neighbor's broken sewer pipes flooding her own property. But contractors told Burnett that fixing her foundation will mean nothing until her neighbor fixes the root of the problem.
My bathroom used to actually coincide with my walls.
Latrice Burnett told us she has spent thousands to keep her house standing.
The ceramic tile started cracking. It started lifting, because the backer board that was underneath it, it just kind of like gave away because the foundation was shifting.
And her latest bill?
$350 that I had to go and borrow behind Mrs. Hines.
Connie Hines owns and rents out the property next door, and she's been cited several times by the city for her broken sewer pipes and buildup of sewage on the property. However, when Fox 4 covered the story in October, the city had closed the case.
We were under the impression that all the work had been completed.
I have call logs.
But Burnett had proof that the issue was still there.
Right after Fox 4 aired it, they came out the next morning.
A new citation was issued for Hines just days later. But Burnett said that slap on the wrist won't stop her home from caving in.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system.
Oh yeah, I had the paperwork.
Burnett now telling us she's taking matters into her own hands.
This paperwork is a judgment for Mrs. Hines to put a lien on her property for the damages that she's caused me.
Now, Fox 4 spoke to a real estate attorney who said she may have more luck just suing Miss Hines for the damages, but Burnett told us after being denied by legal aid and spending thousands just to keep her home standing, she can't afford a lawyer. Burnett plans to file that judgment with Jackson County's courthouse tomorrow morning. Ashonti Ford, Fox 4 News.
I was terrified.
Rose Ludman is a mother of 3 daughters who says state laws failed to protect her kids. In Kansas, a registered sex offender can be on school grounds.
Desmond Colson is a convicted sex offender, and I had 2 restraining orders against him for harming my children. They're going to show that he was under investigation for rape and sexual assault.
And records will also show that Desmond Colson, now 20 years old, was still allowed on New Chelsea Elementary School. A look at Colson's rap sheet shows the man, just 20 years old, has been in trouble with the law nearly half his life.
They violated their own school policy of visitors having to check in at the office. Because he was an older student, they just let him in.
Ludman says Colson was on campus to see her teenage daughter, who was there to pick up her younger sister from school.
Do you have a police report on that?
That's when Ludman realized her worst fears were reality. The mom discovered the 20-year-old Colson had an intimate relationship with her 13-year-old.
I logged on to her Facebook and uncovered messages. The first message I saw was that she thought she may be pregnant and that she had been sneaking out to meet him.
She obtained restraining orders for her daughters, but at the end of the day, they just served as pieces of paper. Colson was back onto the campus within a week.
He had no business being there. He was not supposed to step foot on the property. We had a safety plan in place. They were supposed to call the police and alert me because my child was in that school, and they just let him in.
I contacted the school, who said Colson has since been arrested for violating the restraining order and bringing a gun on campus.
This is a dangerous person.
Now, with his release date right around the corner, Ludman wants him banned, something the school has not done, so she removed her second grader from the campus.
So how long has he been up there grooming kids? And how many other kids has he done this to?
1958 Dockham Drugstore sit-in, one of the most influential pieces of history at that time. In Kansas, we helped hold that torch of justice across the finish line. But before that, it was just a group of friends who grew out of segregation.
It wasn't normal. It became normal for us, but we knew something was awry here.
Galen Vesey grew up in Wichita, Kansas, a place that he says has changed a lot since the 50s. Vesey recalls the climate back then, saying in high school, black students were not allowed to swim in the same pool as white students.
Before the pool was changed, in order for the students the following week, who would have been all white students, to have fresh water.
Wichita took 18 years to desegregate their schools after Brown versus Board of Education passed. But Vesey and his friends weren't going to wait that long to address segregated businesses like the popular downtown Dockham Drugstore.
He said, you know what, as young people do, we're going to change the world. And in their case, they actually did.
Black students, one by one, would come and sit at the Dockham lunch counter and refuse to move until they were served.
See if we could get a Coke or, maybe a slice of pie. And we had done it enough to know that it wasn't going to happen.
But then it did happen. After months of protesting, they were served at an all-white lunch counter.
Dockham Sit-In of 1958 is considered the first successful student-led sit-in. It happened about 18 months before the ones in Greensboro, which most people know about.
People like Andy Higgins, who works for the Ambassador Hotel, where the Dockham Drugstore used to be. But she says the reason people didn't know Kansas came first is because most media outlets refused to write about it.
The only people who published it were the black newspapers, so everyone else just put it behind them.
Higgins' grandmother worked at the original Dockham Drugstore, and now Higgins makes sure to add the history of Dockham in her tours of the Ambassador Hotel, adding that there is a speakeasy inside of the Ambassador named Dockham, so that this building will always carry the history of the sit-ins.
I've had the privilege to meet 5 of the sit-in people, and they're like, we're not heroes. We just did what we had to do.
At some point, somebody prayed for us. Somebody encouraged us. All of that was necessary.
More than 350 cities and 8 states have banned single-use plastic bags like these. Now, environmentalists would like to see that happen in Missouri, but a law passed 4 years ago that has lawmakers' hands tied. Missouri, however, could ban styrofoam containers, much like these, which also don't break down and they threaten the environment. And after our calls, that's an idea that some local leaders and at least one state lawmaker are now considering.
10, 11, 12, 13.
These young environmentalists, 8th graders at Pembroke Hill School, are alarmed by the plastic bags that litter Brush Creek, our community, our planet.
And they're really bad for the environment.
During a class project last year, these eco-warriors learned how plastic bags, bottles, and containers threaten marine life, pollute oceans and waterways, take generations to break down, and fill up our landfills.
It could just be sitting in a landfill for thousands of years.
Plastic, they say, needs to go for the sake of their generation and those who follow.
Because it's going to affect their futures.
But why hasn't Missouri and cities across the Show Me State taken steps to ban plastic bags? The answer is this 2015 law pushed by Representative Dan Schall, who is also the executive director of the Missouri State Grocers Association. It passed over former Governor Jay Nixon's veto and prohibits municipalities from imposing bans, fees, or taxes on those bags.
It's sending the wrong message to the residents and to the communities and the businesses. And I really feel like, if the city wants to do something like that, they have the opportunity.
Cassandra Ford with the National Recycling Partnership says Missouri cities are now powerless to make change on this front to become more eco-friendly.
By the state saying the cities can't determine what's best for their community has had an impact on that. And it hasn't allowed some of the communities who are interested in banning single-use plastics, it hasn't allowed them to do that. So it really has taken away a lot of that control of the city, of what the city wants.
Some cities also want to ban plastic bags because many people mistakenly put them in their curbside recycling bin. Once in that recycling stream, the bags can get caught and damage the equipment at waste management facilities.
But they're not recyclable in the traditional sense, so then they end up just clogging up equipment and causing a lot of problems.
On a global level, Ford shared this dire warning about what could happen if the world fails to reduce its use of plastic products.
There was another study that was done that indicated that by 2050, we would have more plastic in the ocean than we would fish at the current rate. That's something we have to take seriously.
We are going to have an environment that I don't know that we'll be able to turn back the clock to protect.
State Senator Jill Shoup, concerned about the environmental and political fallout from Missouri's 2015 law, introduced a bill last session to repeal that measure and give cities the power to ban plastic bags in their own communities.
What I'm hopeful is that my colleagues on both sides of the aisle will recognize that we should allow individual communities around the state to make their own decisions about whether they ban or significantly cut down on the use of plastic bags.
Shoup also vowed to fight Representative Schall's efforts to expand the 2015 law and prohibit cities from banning styrofoam containers, which also aren't biodegradable and threaten the environment.
Let's not bury our heads in the sand. Science is out there, and it says that we need to take good care of this one earth that we have. So let's pay attention, let's heed that warning, and let's do things to put policies into place that protect the environment so that all of us have a clean and safe earth to inhabit.
Until that happens, experts say each of us can take steps to protect the planet. Things like carrying reusable bags when shopping, not asking for straws in restaurants, and bringing your own containers for carryout instead of using styrofoam ones. And recycle, like this other young eco-warrior we met during our investigation.
So it looks like you boxed this up on your own.
Yeah, we do, at our house, to try to save the planet little by little.
So do these girls.
I think that people don't really think about that. They don't think twice about drinking out of a plastic water bottle and just throwing it away. They need to actually take action.
Now, after our calls, Parkville aldermen now say they'll discuss a possible ban on styrofoam containers. A Kansas City councilman is reviewing similar action, and Senator Shoup plans to introduce a bill to ban styrofoam containers statewide. We have more information on our website, including local restaurants and businesses that have now become more environmentally friendly. Ashonti Ford, Fox 4 News.